Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. I am a eBay seller, a Poshmark seller. I also invest in real estate, and I work full-time in the corporate world. So I document those businesses and my journey here on this channel. This little guy right here is our family. I'll introduce him in a minute, but I'll let people start their in. The title of the video, we're going to discuss manifested pallets versus unmanifested or bulk buys in general. It's a question I've been getting a lot since doing a lot more videos around the bulk buys that I do buy and resell. So we're going to talk through the pros and cons, what it means to be manifested versus unmanifested, and I'll take all your questions at the end. Sorry for anyone a little bit ago, the video quality was terrible. I didn't have my webcam turned on, and I couldn't figure out how to fix that midstream. So I do want to introduce this little guy. I've had a lot of messages about him. So this is Bruno. This is Thor's new little brother. He's about 7 weeks old. We just picked him up today. He's a little confused about the world right now, but he is absolutely adorable. Thor is a little bit. He's been great with him. He's just very curious, very, very curious. But they're adorable when they play. They've played tug of war a couple times, which just makes your heart melt. If anyone's interested, since I'm not going to flood my Instagram page with pictures, although it's very, very tempting. For any that follow me on there, my wife Shannon has created an Instagram called Thor Meets Bruno. So just like you'd think it's spelled, just like the superhero meets Bruno. And she'll be posting pictures on there all the time. So if you want that daily smile, just looking at a golden, looking at a puppy or two dogs, it's definitely the one to follow. But I just wanted to introduce him. He's probably going to go back to sleep right now. I think Shannon's going to take him, but I thought everyone might want to see him. So we will get the video underway now. Oops. Someone just said in the chat they thought I was going to name him Loki. Yeah, that would have made more sense, but Shannon's been dead set on Bruno since like a year ago when we had started discussing getting a brother for Thor. So Bruno it is, which is still, we're very happy with it, obviously. We had to drive about an hour and a half to get him today. So he's just starting to settle in. Sleep is going to be at a premium for the next couple weeks now, but it'll be worth it. So let me jump in. I have a lot to talk about this topic. I've learned a lot about this topic. When I first started bulk buying, it was a very gray area to me. I definitely made a lot of mistakes. I didn't know the difference. Didn't really know where the value was in each. I just kind of went head first to try to figure things out. And now for perspective, if you're new to my channel, I exclusively buy from multiple suppliers, just new at tags clothing. That's why I specialize in selling. I have, like I said, I have a couple different suppliers. I've ordered manifested, non-manifested. I pretty much only order non-manifested now, but there is a use for both, and there's definitely a reason for each and for each situation. So we'll talk through that tonight, really what that means. And I will do a lot of Q&A at the end. It doesn't have to be about this topic, just so you know, if you want to hang around, I'll take whatever reselling questions you guys may have. But I'm going to jump in. I have a couple of reasons bolted here. And so let's talk through what the difference is in manifested versus unmanifested. So when a shipment of any kind or delivery is manifested, something you buy or having delivered to you, all that means is you're getting a list of what you're receiving. So it's a detailed list of each item. And, sometimes the manifest includes like SKU number, if it's new item, SKU number. You obviously have the quantity. Sometimes it'll have the retail price on the tag, and then it'll have the price that you paid. It'll have, sometimes it'll come with a description. Sometimes it'll just come with a brief title. Sometimes it'll come with just what's on the tag. So it's like, it could vary what the detail in the manifest is, but what the core pieces of the manifest are usually quantity, title or description of each item you're getting, so that you can do some research around it, and then like the retail prices, the things like that. That key retail information is typically on the manifest for you to take a look at. So the big reason why manifests are obviously appealing, especially as a reseller, is if I'm looking at different lots I want to buy. I'm looking at a pallet of 800 items here, 1,000 items here, 5,000 items there, and they're all manifested. That gives me the opportunity before I even pull the trigger, right? I can look at the manifests, especially if the buyer offers them ahead of time. Most of them do. Some of them, I'm not sure of the situation they don't. All the buyers I've dealt with, I could look at the manifest ahead of time, so I knew what I was buying. But the big advantage, right, is you can look it up. Especially if you have SKU numbers, things like that. You can look on Amazon. You can look at the prices are there. You can look at prices on eBay. All those types of things. And you can really figure out is this something I want to pull the trigger on and risk my capital on? What is my return probably going to be? You can have a very, 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 very educated guess as to what your return is going to be based on the manifest. So that's the huge, huge, huge benefit of manifested versus non-manifested. And I see in the chat, Better Barbie just said, Luke, we miss you. We need more videos. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. I know it's been a long time since I made some videos, but I think this is like my fourth or fifth in like the last 2 weeks. So I'm getting back up there. I'm aiming for 2 videos a week. That's really my goal right now. So 8 videos a month, that would make me happy. I missed making content, which is why I'm making content again. I really, really enjoyed this part of it. I didn't realize how much I missed it until I didn't do it for quite a few months. So I appreciate that. I really, really appreciate the kind words. But in any case, kind of just jumping back to manifested versus not manifested. So I just went through all the reasons why manifested is amazing, right? And how it's awesome. And I also just told you that I buy almost exclusively non-manifested now. So there's really a lot to talk about between those two to explain why that's my situation, explain why it might not be appropriate for your situation, and kind of sort through that. So the first big thing is cost. To buy a manifested pallet, so if all things being equal, making that assumption, if the same company was selling 800 units of men's apparel, new with tags, unmanifested, and 800 units of non-manifested, you can probably expect somewhere between a 25 to 50% markup on the manifested. Because there's a couple of reasons. The main reason is you gotta understand, most of these liquidation companies, they have contracts where they have to buy tons of tractor trailer loads or X amount of tractor trailer loads a month from distribution centers, no matter what. They don't know what's coming. Their tractor trailers are definitely unmanifested for the most part. And if they are manifested, they're like very loosely manifested, like more of, here's some hard good pallets, you're in this category, here's whatever. So they're getting all this stuff in, and then they have labor to go through, sort it, quality check it, manifest it, do all that stuff so that you can buy it. They're taking on that cost. So they're going to pass that cost on to you as the buyer, right? Versus, hey, I can just throw 800 count, I pull 800 pieces of apparel off into a pallet. I know it's 800, but I'm not going to individually manifest it. They can downcharge that, right? They don't have to charge as much for that. And you got to realize all these liquidators, they're getting things so cheap that even selling it to you at a fair price, unmanifested, right? It's something you think is cheap. They're still winning, and then you're still winning. The manifested gets a little more expensive, but I still think it can be very, very appropriate. So a really good, for instance, is so let's just talk like Macy's brand. So Macy's brand clothing, I bought some plus size manifested clothing, and per unit, it was like just under $6 a unit. I could have got the same quantity unmanifested. Well, sorry, that's not true. I would have doubled the quantity, but it would have been unmanifested. So I wouldn't have known. I know the category roughly. I would have known it would have been like women's whatever. But I didn't know anything else about it. Was $2 a unit cheaper. But not quality checked. So there's probably going to be a little more waste in it. Brands are going to be kind of more of a kind of shooting at the hip, kind of roulette wheel type, so that, like, just a little perspective there on that. I mean, that was something I personally experienced. I'm sorry, I have a Saturday night, so occasionally have a beer. One of the things with costs is that the bigger quantity you buy in, the lower the cost goes, but also the bigger quantity unmanifested, it really goes down really fast. Because the best thing for these liquidators, especially ones that are getting tractor trailer loads in the time, is to just pull something off that's already packed in a pallet. They have a rough idea of how many things are in there, and they do just a brief count, right? They just do like a sanity check and say, hey, it's going to be somewhere between 800 and 1,000 items that you have to do very little with. It comes off the truck, and they just turn around and sell it to you. Like, that's best case scenario for them. So I think that hopefully that makes sense logistically. Like, any of you who work in any type of setting, right? You can think about the cost of handling any type of item. Every time you handle it, every extra step you make, it adds a ton of cost. So I think I beat that to death. I'm going to move on. So the second one I like to consider is, are you new to bulk buying? Because I think I get a lot of questions. I mean, tons of questions on when should I bulk buy? When should I start doing that? When should I make the leap from just buying in thrift stores to starting to buy, 500, 1,000 units, whatever? When do you make that leap? How do I know that I'm buying something good? How do I know I have the right supplier? How do I know that I'm buying the right genre? How do I know I'm getting the right price? All those things come into, are you new or are you not? And I think when you're new, and this is what I did, buy manifested, pay up a little bit. Even if your margin's worse, like pay up a little bit so that you can do the research ahead of time to be like, you know what? I know that 50% of these brands are going to move pretty quick. I know that 50% of them might move a little slow. I know that 25% of them are going to get me 5X. I know that 25% are going to get me 4X. And you can plan accordingly. Like I really, really think there are so many things to learn when you bulk buy on the other end. Like when you get that pallet in, just even figuring out how to unbox the dang thing, figuring out how to sort it, how you want to list multi-quantity, getting security tags off. There's so many things that you don't even think about considering when you're taking that in and processing it versus just going to a thrift store and grabbing 20, 30 items you handpicked and know are good. And trust me, I know that world very well. I did that for 4 years, building my business up, going to thrift stores, doing that. I know it very well. And I enjoyed it a ton. But I think when you make that step and you're going to be a newer person to bulk buying, it's manifested is perfect. And I have to also preface, I've only really dealt with apparel. I haven't dealt with the hard goods. I don't sell on Amazon, so I don't deal with like brand gating and things like that. I sell on eBay and Poshmark. So I don't have to worry about I think on Amazon, it's even more important as manifested, right? Because you got to make sure you're not buying a bunch of crap that you're gated in. So that's a whole other discussion. And so someone just asked, it makes sense, but you worked hard for those contacts. Where does the average Barbie start to find these contacts? So that's a great question. I'm gonna table that. Well, actually, it kind of feeds into this next piece. So I think we touched on costs between, manifested is gonna be a lot more expensive versus unmanifested. We talked about being new or not, right? I think that being new to bulk buying, definitely should go the manifested route for your first one, and probably a smaller quantity than you eventually want to get to, just to test the waters. But then it comes down to, do you know your supplier? So if you're just using a supplier for the first time, which kind of plays into your question, where do I find these contacts? Where do I find these suppliers? If you're just finding them for the first time, buying a smaller manifested lot from this person or this supplier makes a lot of sense, because you're adding an extra level of transparency before you get to know them really well to try out, hey, how fast is their delivery? Was the manifest as accurate as said it was? Was the quality as good as they said it was? Right? All those things you can test a little better and a little with a little less risk. So knowing your supplier, like for instance, what I would call my main supplier that sends me the bulk of my athletic new tag stuff that I sell, a lot of Under Armour, Nike, Adidas, stuff like that. That's like a handshake. I've met him personally. I've been to his operation. Like I've literally toured his warehouses. Know him I would say very well for someone I buy with twice a month. And that was one where I literally emailed probably 100 plus liquidators in my geographic area, probably a 300-mile radius to find someone. And he was one of the only ones who responded to me. And that's just, you got to cast a wide net and go after him. But because I knew him so well, and honestly, the story around that one is, I'll save it for another video, but I got a message back with I have X amount of Under Armour units and Nike units. Do you want them? Let me know in the next 3 hours. I'm going to sell them to someone else. That's literally what happened to start this relationship. And I don't recommend going the route I went. I kind of went on some faith, and I just pulled the trigger and said, yeah, I'll take them. I'll be there tomorrow. Rented a U-Haul. I wired him money that day, rented a U-Haul, and picked up the next day, because I just had a feeling with what we were talking about that it was going to be good. And I took a chance on it, and it worked out. But I don't recommend going that way. But because I know my supplier, and the reason I'm telling that story is knowing my supplier, he doesn't manifest anything for me at all, ever. He literally gives me a piece count. He says it's roughly this brand mix. We have a brief discussion about it. He goes, how about this price? If I think it's reasonable based on the appropriate brand mix he's given me, and he knows my business pretty well now, I'll be like, yeah. I think we've only had one disagreement on price, and he came down on it for me. And it actually had to do with a lot of our soccer apparel that I've had in. And he came down on that for me because he realized that it was a much lower price point. And that's that. Now, that's because I know him well. I trust him. He's been true to his word. I can do that. And so he passes that price benefit on to me, right? Instead of upcharging me $2 or $3 extra a unit to fully manifest it and make me comfortable, he's knocking that off, passing that price discount to me, and just giving me a piece count so that we can calculate the invoice and moving on. And, I deal with whatever waste comes. I deal with that. He doesn't deal with any of that. His employees mess up and put stuff in there that's ruined. Like, I still pay for it and I deal with it. But I have that understanding with him, and he passes on an extreme discount to me for me to handle that waste, for me to handle those issues, for maybe to handle the stuff that's not a great ROI or a break-even item. So it's worth it to me in the long run. And that's why I love unmanifested now. And even the pallet I just did the unboxing of, which is from Smashlots, was unmanifested as well. I just knew it was 800 men's apparel. That's all I knew. I knew it was mostly JCPenney's brands, which I was comfortable with for the price that I got it at. And that was all the information I had to go on, though. I didn't know what mix of items, if it was shorts, just all T-shirts. I didn't know if it was sweaters or dress. I know nothing, but you just kind of take the shot on it. But that, again, I got a huge price discount because I went unmanifested, not manifested. And to me, that's where, as a reseller, once you have the systems and the scale to handle something like that, that's where you really make the margin and the money. Because it's going to cost me the same amount to process and list an item, whether I pay $8 or $4 for it, right? So every time I can discount my cost of goods, that's directly to my bottom line, like directly to my bottom line. So hopefully that makes sense. I know it was a little bit of a tangent, but I think those stories add some context that kind of hopefully shed some light on why or why not, and why knowing your supplier is so important. Sorry, I'm fidgeting so much. We had a partner CrossFit workout this morning, and I'm hurting pretty good from it. My back is very sore, especially we literally worked out this morning, then sat in the car for an hour and 45 minutes one way and then an hour and 40 minutes on the way back to get the puppy. So not great for the lower back. So those are the first three things: is cost, if you're new to bulk buying or not, and then how well do you know your supplier, like in determining which route to go. And then a fourth is what type of goods are you buying? So for apparel, I think that unmanifested is amazing. For if I'm an Amazon seller and I have brand gating issues and I'm selling hard goods, electronics, whatever, it may be a terrible idea to go unmanifested. I don't know. I don't have a lot of experience in that. So I think it's important to know your type of goods. Sorry for the yawn. I'm sure these are going to become more frequent for the next couple of weeks of the puppy. But if you know the type of goods really well, like I know apparel well, when someone tells me men's in this category, blah, 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 I know pretty much what the general ROI is going to be. I just know from experience, so I can take those risks. But if you don't know your type of good and you're getting this just mixed bag, hey, I'm going to send you 1,000 units of something completely random, I'm not going to tell you the category. Like, yeah, probably not a great idea. Like, you have no context for if that per unit price is good if you have no idea what category it's in. And that's why I think like the hard goods piece gets really tricky when it's just like, oh, here's some Walmart, closeout, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a bunch of random stuff. I don't know. It's like that. It makes it really hard to know if like it's going to have 300 units, but who knows what type of units, who knows how big they are, who knows, like that makes it really tough, I think, when it's not manifested. And so someone just asked, is it best to find someone local? So that's a really interesting question. I don't think it's necessary to find someone local. Smashlots is located, I think Jasper's out of Chicago, but he brokers from a lot of different places that are not where he is to get goods to me. So I don't think that's necessarily important. I think my last shipment came from Florida. I've had one come from like the Midwest before. So I mean, definitely hurts your shipping costs if it's not on the same time zone. Oh, I can hear Thor out there barking. But yeah, definitely hurts if it's not in the same time zone. But when it comes to like being super, super local, I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's like a requirement. I do think though that local and you're trying to juggle suppliers, it makes a lot of sense to have at least one local. So if you have a stoppage in your supply chain and you need to get an order in quick, having a local supplier you can count on who you can be like, hey, I need this in 5 days, they might have a chance to deliver, so you don't have a stoppage in your supply chain. That's why local was important to me. Was I wanted to find someone who could really fulfill on short notice if I needed it. And then the second area was I wanted to have one supplier that I met in person at least and start to develop that relationship. I'm just a people person. I mean, I don't know if you can tell from my personality, but like I'm all about the relationships. Like I think that's why I've kept a full-time job as long as I have and haven't just gone off on my own like this, because I need that people interaction. So I think it's important to have that face-to-face time. So if they are local, it's even better. And then, so we covered costs, whether you're new or not to bulk buying, if you know your supplier or not, and if you know the type of goods you're getting, those being the 4 big categories. And then the fifth, and just kind of like, it kind of ties into some of the other ones we talked about, but like, do you know the quantity and the capital outlay you're getting, right? If you're spending a lot of money for you, like if you're making a bulk buy and the money you're about to spend is 10x what you usually spend in inventory in a month, probably want to go manifested and probably want to know the exact quantity. Like when you're taking that big of risk or over leveraging yourself that much to buy something, that's, I think, when manifested becomes a big win, because you can be a lot more calculated about outlaying that capital. Also, if you're doing like 300 or 400 units, I don't know that you're ever going to get to an economy of scale where it makes sense to do unmanifested at that point. Because I would say anything 300 to 400 units or less, they're probably going through a manifesting in general, anything that big. It's when you get into those quantities where you have an opportunity to buy 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 units, even 1,000 units, right? Or 800 units. Manifesting becomes a pain because that's a lot of labor to type out and look at all those individually and then repack them in the pallets. So just considering the quantity really will determine, in my mind, whether you end up going that route or not. So those are the 5 things. I'm going to stop now. I'm going to break for some questions. I've got about 8 minutes. I got a hard stop. It's my turn for puppy duty. We are trying to schedule where I'm going to stay up later and get reselling stuff done and watch the puppy. And then Shannon's going to bed early, and then she's getting up early with the dog, and I'm sleeping in a little bit. So we're trying to kind of stack for the first couple of weeks until he's old enough to sleep a little longer through the night. We went through this with Thor before, and we had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. And this time we're a little more experienced, so it should go a little smoother, I hope. But feel free, any questions you have, and I'll grab some of the ones from earlier that weren't as relevant to this topic, but they do not have to be relevant to this topic. You can ask any reselling questions you want. More than happy to answer them. So someone asked regarding tie storage. So I'm guessing you're talking like men's dress ties. I'm going to assume that, like neckties. So do you poly them and just put them in your bins like all your other items? And they're referring to behind me. But I am going to do a video, guys, on my storage. I've had probably 3 or 4 requests for last week to talk about how I do my storage, how I store my items, how I label them, how I pick my SKUs, how I handle delisting and unlisting from multiple platforms. So I will do a video on that shortly, I promise. But the question is, they just bought 1,400 ties and they're wondering how I store them. So I did not. Sorry. Whew. One more y'all in there, man. I don't put them in poly bags now because I don't really sell ties anymore. I got to a peak of like 100 ties I had listed at some point in time, and I just had them thrown all into one bin, and it was easy enough for me to find the patterns when I was sifting through them. However, if I had 1,400 ties, I think I would poly bag and label them and just put them in bins because at the end of the day, like, you just want to find that range of numbers. Like, I'd rather go to a bin and be like, you know what? Tie 1 through 200's in here, right? Like A1 through A200's in here. At least narrow my scope to find it. I think sifting through 1,400 ties is just unrealistic. So I would probably go that route if I was you. So Frank just said, do you have an average minimum profit percentage that you try to stay with? Yeah, absolutely. So I used to always be a 50% or above net when I was doing thrift stores. I mean, I think I was as high as like 58% at one point. And then when I started to scale and hire help, my margins kind of crept down. So let's just say taking the operating profit out of it, let's just assume straight purchase costs to sale price. What is the profit I'm looking for? And that's considering shipping costs. Let's consider shipping costs. I think that matters based on like the size you're getting. I'm really looking for a 5x. So if I can't get, like, for instance, $5, oh, sorry for all the yawns, guys. Oh man. But if I can't get the 5 into 25 math to work, I'm not real crazy about it. And when I say 5 into 25, I mean like buy for 5, sell for 25 shipped in apparel, which means that 3 out of 4 times it's shipping first class. If I can't get that as like my floor, and and I'll accept like a bottom third of the order to be like 5 into 20, right? And maybe the middle third is 5 to 25, and the top third is 5 into 30 or 5 into 35 or something like that with some home runs. That's like my floor for what I'm looking at. I get higher than that with some of my suppliers right now. Like my main supplier, I'm getting, I would say on average, it's like it's probably like a 7x right now with sale price, buy cost to sell price. I'll have to kind of reevaluate after I look at sales this month, because I have all my items kind of flagged and I can figure some of these analytics out. But yeah, that's kind of, to me, that personally, because I know my cost to photograph and list it with my VAs and my contract photographers, that's like, I can't consider anything less than that, or there's just not enough meat left on the bone for me to handle the shipping on the back end, and I'm just not making enough after that. Someone just said, said you and the puppy will be asleep snugly on the couch for you before you know it. Yeah, it's been kind of a lazy day. I haven't got as much done as I wanted, but to be expected when you first get a puppy for the first day. Done a lot of stuff with my laptop, but he's just been snuggling me most of the time. Sherry just said I have about 200 ties and I put them numbered in the shallow rectangular plastic bins. Yeah. How do you number them? I'm just curious. Like, do you polybag and then number them? Because I wouldn't want to put something on the tie itself. That's what I mean. I use polybags for everything for that reason, and because I like to just ship them. Like, it's easy to throw that into a polybag. I've got about 3 minutes left for other questions if anyone has any. I will say I am excited about Thanksgiving coming up. I don't know if you guys are or not. Thanksgiving is one of my favorite food holidays. I'm pretty pumped about it. And this is the first year, actually, a little bittersweet, but we're not going home for Thanksgiving. So usually Shannon and I drive back home upstate New York. We usually bring our dog. But we're going to stay put this year, partially because of the new job I started, partially because now we have a puppy. And so we're just doing a Friendsgiving with a close friend and just chilling. So kind of excited to make the food myself. Be a little bittersweet for sure, but I can't wait for it. Someone just asked if I had an anchor store. That's a great question. So nope, I don't have an anchor store. I'm getting close. I think the last time I did the math, like 3,800 active listings was when it made sense to get an anchor store from a math perspective. What I mean by that is if you look at what you pay per month and the amount of free listings you get, right? You divide that and that gives you like a per listing price. And then you add in however many listings you have on top of the free listings and that price, and divide your listings into it to figure out if it makes sense mathematically to do it. So I need to get about, let me look right now how many live listings I have. So I have 3,324 live listings. My guess is probably January or February of next year, I'll end up upgrading an anchor store. Hoping to process these 800 units I've had. I just got in by the end of this month, and then have maybe that first week of December. And then I've got another shipment coming in from my main supplier the week after Thanksgiving. So that should probably have 1,000 or 1,500 units to start working through. So we'll get in there sooner or later. Someone said, I think that finding someone to buy from would be the hardest part. And absolutely, one of the main reasons people don't end up making that jump. I'll back up. One of the main reasons people make the jump is because they don't want to, which is totally fine. Like one of the biggest appeals of reselling is the thrill of the hunt, going to the thrift stores, finding all these things and flipping them. Sometimes this is not, bulk buying isn't that appealing to a lot of people for good reason. Like it's very methodical. It's very mundane. There's not a lot of thrill to it. It definitely can make a lot of money doing it. You can build a big business doing it, but it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of operating skills. You got to be able to scale a little bit with help. So I think that's a big deterrent, but finding someone definitely is the hardest part. There's only so many relationships out there, and we're all vying for them. And that's why I don't share my one main one, because it's my main supplier. I share Smash Lots because that's he's selling stuff that a lot of people have access to all over the place. I think that Jasper does it in a really good way. I think he delivers a good service. He's really good customer service. It's at a fair price, especially for people just starting out. So I recommend that one because it's not my main one. Like if everyone who followed any of my content went and bought from and cleaned them out and I couldn't buy from it, it wouldn't devastate my business. So that's why I share that one. So Sherry said, I print out tie numbers, cut into stops, and put it in the bag with the tie so it's visible. Oh, cool. Another question is, since you do mostly best offers and good to canceled, do you now use new offers to watch this feature? So that's a great question. So first of all, I was been way behind on eBay news. I'm a very bad business owner. So I saw that we have that feature, got excited about it because I saw on Poshmark and love that on Poshmark. I've been trying to find where I can do it on eBay. I just been starting to play around like 2 days ago. I did read at some point, I don't think everyone has the capability to do it. I think it's still in a pilot for some sellers. If anyone can DM me and let me know how to do it, that'd be great. I have not done a lot of research. I really just need to Google and figure out how to do it. But yeah, I definitely will employ it at some point as soon as I figure out how to do it. And I think one of the other things is I don't think you can do it from the mobile app, right? Mobile app. If I could do it from the mobile app, it'd be great. Because like I do on Poshmark is when I'm laying in bed before bed, is I go through all my likes for the day and send offers to likers before I go to sleep. That's just one of the things I do that helps move some sales. So I did look at my time. I got to wrap up. Shannon needs to get some sleep, and it's my turn to check in on puppy duty. Hopefully this topic you guys learned something. Hopefully someone was looking for this answer and stumbled across the video. Appreciate everyone stopping in. Hopefully you enjoyed Bruno. Again, if you you want to see more pictures or more photos of Bruno, I'm not going to bombard my business Instagram with it, Endless Entrepreneurs. But you can go to the Instagram Thor Meets Bruno, and I think I've quoted him on my Instagram page as well. But hopefully managing that, and she'll be posting pictures of him and Thor every single day. So give that little smile, a little boost you might want on Monday morning. Have a great night, everyone. Definitely leave comments below if you have questions or ideas after or anything. Love hearing from you guys. DM me on Instagram for the quickest response, but I do try to get back to everyone no matter what platform you send a comment on. Hit that like button on the way out, and have a great night, guys. See you.